Welcome to the first episode of Corrective Action for Australia. In the coming scenes and the coming statements, they are all fact and proof based. All this information is accessible on the internet already to the public eye. I have no access or inside collusion with any media authority or any other department of the government. Please understand I am just an everyday Australian who is trying to do right for our country. I hope you enjoy and learn from the following clips, reviews, information for you to take action against any illegal or any fraudulent action taken against you by the Australian government or any other party. I hope you enjoy the video.
Hello, I'm from the Australian Government. Are you confused about the economy? Unsure how it all works? Great, just making sure, because there's no way we could have one of the fastest growing inequality rates in the world if you understood trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics is when we let the rich piss on you and we tell you it's raining. Like when we let billion-dollar companies and millionaires pay no tax and then tell you there isn't enough cash in the budget for this stuff. It's all part of our SFA tax policy. Qantas paid SFA taxes for the past decade. That's the spirit of Australia. Meanwhile, wage growth is dead and millions live below the poverty line. On New Start, the unemployment benefit, which even the Business Council says is inadequate, yet we've consistently refused to raise. Why should we? Julia says she can live on $40 a day, and she'd know. She only owns 5 houses. But don't worry, ScoMo has a brand new solution. Bigger tax cuts for the biggest tax dodgers, like the banks, which are currently being exposed as massive corrupt by a royal commission. But hey, everyone makes mistakes and they deserve a fair go too. But if you're on Centrelink, we'll hunt you down with debt collectors even if you owe us nothing. Because as News Corp tells us, it's people on welfare who are bleeding the taxpayer. P.S. News Corp pays SFA taxes too. Relax, banks and CEOs will find a way to trickle some of that wealth down to you. They haven't been able to name a single country where this has ever happened before, but hey, we place full trust in them at a time when we also fully support a royal commission into their corruption. Think that's a contradiction? Nope, that's trickle-down economics. The best part about trickle-down economics is that the system isn't broken, it's not illegal, it's working just as intended, trickling the wealth from you to the rich and telling you it's for your own good. Trick economics, when the wealth trickles alright, just not in your direction. Authorised by the Department for Distributing Breadcrumbs to the Proles.
Alright, so this brings me to the China-Australia relationship is strained but not broken element of this episode. Guys, if we scroll down here, Australia's relationship with China is not in crisis, but no one would be blamed for thinking this. After all this garbage that's gone on with China and the issues last year where Julia Bishop thought that she'd take it upon herself to tell China how to manage their own waters around their own country and almost literally took us to the brink of real war with China. The disrespect and the arrogance of one person speaking on behalf of all Australians has almost taken us to the brink of all-out war, to a point where we could have literally right now had every Chinese person from China living here and running our country, and we become part of China. That's called invasion, yeah? Russia would have backed them, Korea would have backed them, or North Korea at least. Japan wouldn't have said no. Guys, we have a country of corrupt, idiotic, stupid politicians who are far reaching above their own pay grade or jurisdictional level of responsibility and speaking on behalf of us, saying that all of Australia believes that what happened last year was okay. No, it wasn't. Let's just move forward. After all, there's plenty of turbulence this week. Look at the treatment meted out of the Foreign Minister Julia Bishop's and Chinese counterparts Wang Yi in Argentina's meeting on Tuesday. Ms. Bishop has, has been trumpeting the meeting for days, and she dismissed a crescendo of bad news about the frayed ties with our largest trading partner. This is not a political scam. This is not a political position of statement. This is a simple case of trading partners. Where does all of our iron ore go? Where do most of our nickel and other raw resources go? China. Why would we bite the hand that feeds us because we don't personally agree with their economic strategy? We personally don't agree with their cultural standing. We personally don't agree with their way of doing things. So we have to impose what we think's right upon a country of billions of people? What the hell? Our economy's crap. Our politicians are corrupt. Our government departments are in absolute shambles. Our economy is in free fall. We're about to hit GFC 2.0, and Julia Bishop's threatening people in meetings and speaking on behalf of the Australian people, saying that this is what we think is a country. Do you think this is Australia? Do you agree with what Julia Bishop has done in past and right now in relation to the trade issues this country has with China and the cultural issues we have? Is it not the Australian government that allowed for all of that international purchasing of your homes from under your feet, for those people to then head back to China to then live off your money? Yeah, your money, my money. We allowed, as a country, our government to allow foreign investors to come in and buy all of our homes and piss off overseas again. Yes, we kicked up a stink, and eventually people that had 10 or so properties, lived in China, yada, 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 had those properties taken back off them. The problem being is, guys, is you think any white, Italian, Greek, Lebanese, Arab, any other nation of people lived in those homes that those people owned and rented out to? No. Chinese people were housing their own. It was a subculture, and it still is for a very large amount of percentage of our cultural standing, not with just China, by the way, that these people are housing their own people. They're having a subculture within our culture, and they are trying to financially take over. Instead of by war, by commerce, are they trying to disintegrate the Australian economy, take all of that money and ship it back to China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. Look, guys, the list goes on and on and on of the countries that are bleeding us dry. And we have to stop it. We are a tiny economy on the world scale. We are a country that is teetering on the edge of absolute financial disaster. And everyone has their face in a mobile bloody phone, looking at the bloody bullcrap that gets fed to you on a daily basis. And where's that getting you? Do you have a full-time job right now? And 90% of Australians, do you have a full-time job right now? Get out of your phone screens, wake up in the morning, leave your phone on the table. Walk into the kitchen, turn the kettle on, make a coffee, tea, whatever you do for your normal morning exercise, and leave your phone on the table. Do not subscribe to the propaganda, the fraud, the corruption, the lies that you're getting fed on a daily basis. Because here is the proof itself. And this is just this part of the video. Now, there's some funny stuff coming up in the video. Please stay tuned. There is also some other very extremely important information for people that have been defrauded by Centrelink recently as well, upcoming in the video. Now, let me move on. Beijing takes Australia to task. Beijing has been angered by the government's legislation crackdown on foreign interference legislation, which is largely aimed at China's increasingly sophisticated attempts to flex its muscle within Australian borders. Case rested from what I just said before. But Wang Yi has a solution. Australia must break away from the traditional thinking, he said. take off their coloured glasses and look at China's development from a positive angle and provide more for the cooperation aspects between the two countries instead of showing reluctance to assimilate. You starting to get the picture, Australia? It's not just China. Everyone is picking at the dead carcass. Our economy is in shambles because our government is weak, incompetent, unqualified for their role in position. Most of them have had, especially the Liberal Party guys, they've had millions and millions of dollars donated by Chinese investors, Chinese, what do you call it? What's the word? Help me out here, Australia. Chinese bullshit. Corruption at the highest level. The Liberal government. Labor government. Christ, they stopped being bloody a Labor Party about 15 years ago when Julia Gillard got in. And good old Ruddy. I love Ruddy, but God, he was useless. Since then, yeah, you have Bill Shorten, who was a union hick. Okay, I got nothing against the unions. The unions actually did help us ensure our rights back in the day. It did ensure fair pay, did do all these things, but corruption has also crept into the workforce side of Parliament now as well. We have a systemic issue from a fundamental local government level all the way through to the highest positions of federal government. We live in a democracy. We live in a country where we have free speech, or supposedly we do. Why the hell are we allowing this PC bullcrap to happen on top of all of this going on the screen right this minute? What is wrong with you, Australia? Now, if we read further through, it is time to panic. Not really. Yes, it is. Our economy is in free fall. I'll keep saying this, driving the point home, because Australians are not standing up for a fair go. Australians are not saying to their employers, as a cohort, no, you will not give me casual rates. You will not give me only up to 8 hours work a week. And that has since been, I think, degraded down to 4 hours as the minimum award standard for a casual employee. Guys, certain politicians can live on $40 a day, right? Or a week, whatever it was. I've got the video coming up. It's actually quite satiristic and it is very accurate on its statements. People cannot survive with the wage cost, the wage lack of growth, everything that we're living in right now. The simple fact is that milk, $3. Shavers, yeah, for guys and girls, yeah, $21 for blades for your shaver. $12 for your razor to start with, and a couple of blades. Bread, milk, cheese, butter. These things were not ever meant to have a GST attached to them. Right? So far, the signs of displeasure go slow on diplomatic exchanges, public scolding. They are largely symbolic. And while the Global Times is a state-owned newspaper, it's best to think of it as a weapon, not a window into the deliberations of China's top leaders. So once again, the media, the paparazzi, the bloody morons that make shit up and sensationalize it and feed it to you like shit on a stick with pumpkin, as Carl Barron says. Guys, stop eating the garbage. Stop believing the bullshit. What you hear on the national news on a daily basis, out of the 100% of crap you hear about in bloody sport, I don't want to hear about bloody sport on the news. It's the news. The weekend is for sport, bloody crap. They do that because they have been filtered and they have been reprimanded from telling the truth because of PC bullshit. You can walk down the street right now and look at somebody and be arrested for it. Australia, seriously? I'm speechless to that fact. That is actually a federal law now. And if you have a policeman walking past and someone accuses you of visual sexual harassment, they will arrest you and put handcuffs on you and take you to the police station and charge you with sexual assault. For Christ's sakes! It's time this bullshit stops, Australia, and it's time it stops now. People like Julia Bishop need to be removed from government. How many prime ministers have come and gone from both sides of parliament, and who's been there the entire bloody time? Julia Bishop has never been ousted from position in her entire career since she became the, Deputy Prime Minister of Australia. Think about it, guys. She was there with John Howard and before. Since she has got in, all of our problems have arisen. All the corruption has begun. She has been in behind the scenes the entire time, manipulating and marionetting each Prime Minister she throws up to be attacked. Do you think Malcolm Turnbull really has the upper brain intelligence to run a country? Do you think Tony Abbott did? And if you do, God help us. Like Kevin Rudd, Julia Bishop, right? Spills and backstabbing and childish office politics. Name one politician you trust in Australia. One. And if you say Nick Xenophon, you're an idiot. He's in it for himself too. Guys, things are getting real bad real quick. And it's time to wake up and make the coffee and put the phone down. Threats are cheap to make, but they can shape behaviour effectively. Oh, by the way, 12% of what you watch on the news is true. The rest is all propaganda, lies and corruptive bullcrap to lead you down a pathway to make you think that you're being told the truth. Because within every lie, there is an element of truth. Am I correct? Yes. As written by many different scholars throughout history. Polly's spy chief sound the alarm. Ooh, here we go. Now this is the juicy stuff. 2 recent speeches to Parliament, one explosive, the other humdrum. Capture the conundrum neatly. We live in a rapidly changing world. We are watching the rise of authoritarian states. Those states are conducting foreign interference operations across Western democracies. In Australia, it is clear that the Chinese Communist Party is working to covertly interfere with our media, our universities, and also influence our political processes and public debates. Guys, come on! The Chinese have nothing to do with it. The Australian, the Americans, the UK. Fuck's sake, I'm sorry for swearing, but Christ's sakes, people. This is the beginning of the grand deception. This is the Australian government and anybody of severe wealth in this country, the 4%ers, they are driving this collusion to lie, cheat, and completely confuse you to a point where you don't know who to blame. Well, here, today, right now, this is where the buck stops. Once and for all. We are the Prometheus of our own demise. Those of you that voted Liberal in the last election, shame on you. Those of you that voted Labor in the last election, shame on you. We have choice. I voted for 2 very, very different parties that had very, very honest, take Australia back, fair go attitudes towards democracy. Did any of you? Clearly not. We've had muppets and corrupt morons and misogynists and narcissistic psychopaths running our government for years and years and years. And all of you, because you've got your screen in your face, your head down instead of up and looking forward and looking around, seeing reality around you, are voting for these morons because you're getting programmed to. Yes, the media is programming you. Facebook is programming you. Instagram, Twitter, the whole bit. It is a massively well-designed marketing scheme to drive you into voting a certain way because of a certain mindset and a certain way of thinking. Guess what? You're all sheep. I'm not. I voted outside the box. You know what you can do too, Australia? If you don't want to vote for any politician at all, you know what you can do? Put a big smiley face on your ballot paper, fold it up and put it in the box. Guess what? It's a non-vote. Guess what? You're not breaking the law because you're being agnostic. You are choosing not to participate in the corrupt system. You have that right. It's a human right to not vote. In America, people don't vote if they don't want to. If they don't believe that the current Senate and the current representatives that are available, the candidates that are available are at all any good, they just don't vote. And if they do think they're good and they can make change, then they vote. Guess what? Trump got in because Trump actually knows his shit. And he's got his own money, so he didn't need anyone's help. Every politician in this country takes donations from China. Alright guys, so this brings me to what happens when you get a Centrelink letter. And this is the biggest issue with the robo-debt crime that the government is committing on a severe federal level. This is defrauding hundreds and thousands and soon to be millions of Australians. I myself have been the victim of a phone call recently where I was told I owed $6,000. So what I've done is I have asked for an independent account reviewer. Someone who is an independent assessor. They are not a Centrelink employee. They are a third party that will see the problem. When I called back up after getting this phone call, by the way, I was at work at the time, right? You know, like any other hard-working Australian. I called up the next day and I queried that, and the lady on the phone pretty much went straight away, yep, you've pretty much been bullshitted without saying it, you know, insinuation, and basically said to me, yep, no problems, I'll pass you on to the right person to get this fixed up immediately for you. I then had a chat with a very rude, arrogant young girl who is severely undertrained, severely unknowledgeable, and couldn't even comprehend that there was an option to request an independent case assessor in the first place. She had to try to put me on hold after severely speaking down to me and arguing with me about debts from 2010. I've paid all my debts off, and that's the beauty of it. I know for a fact, I can prove this without a shadow of a doubt, that I don't have this debt. And she continued to argue with me to the point where it got to the point where I had to go all legal and talk about the law and talk about my statute's limitations and the position in which I've been put in, the fact I have facts, proof and evidence on paper, like this, what you're seeing right here, proving that it is fraud and I'm being defrauded by the New South Wales state and federal governments in relation to a false debt that I do not owe. She then continued to argue with me to a point of idiocy and went around loops in conversation. So I then asked for her employee name and number. Yes, you're entitled to that. She's a public servant, whether she likes it or not. Once then the point of the conversation got to complete idiocy, I then she said, okay, look, I'm going to put you on to a supervisor. I'm going to put you on hold so I can talk to my supervisor. So I can see what I can get done for you. I then finished the conversation up very abruptly, hung up on her, called back, and then spoke to somebody else who then solved my issue within moments. Moments, guys. I'm talking about less than a minute on the phone to talk to someone. The incompetency, the corruption, and the stupidity astounds me of what we have as a country of people that are meant to be qualified, meant to be experienced, meant to have training. Oh, by the way, I'm a trainer and assessor myself. I'm also an international college teacher, as well as domestic RTO trainer and assessor as well. Yeah, I teach both sides of the fence, and guess what? I love every goddamn student we've got from wherever they are around the world or locally. Everybody needs to be told the truth. Everybody needs to have the sheepish wool pulled from your eyes and realities of corporate that I come from myself, told and taught and educated to people, so then they can go out and replace these corrupt morons and criminals on a federal, legal, financial and business level. Most people in executive management are either academics with no real world experience, or daddy or my uncle have got me the job. Okay? And this is the corruption in itself, the 4% corruption. Anyway, moving forward. What happens when you get a Centrelink letter? The agency has been slamming thousands of Australians with inaccurate debt letters to pay back benefits. Here's what to do if you are contacted. Centrelink has been slamming thousands of Australians with inaccurate debt letters for months now. So here's what to do if you are contacted by the agency. Human Services, they introduce themselves as now, not Centrelink. The government is trying to claw back $4 billion in welfare overpayments and sending out 20,000 letters a month to people it claims owes money. In my conversation, I got told 3 or 4 times that they do not have the proof, or they cannot tie it together, but I all of a sudden have a debt on their system. So that's fraud. That is speculation, and that is fraud on a federal level to say that they think I owe them money, but they're not willing to investigate it, and they're not willing to actually look in behind the whole historical elements of the payment systems and look at my previous debt that I have paid off in full while working since, yes. And guess what? I made some mistakes. So did Centrelink. They stuffed up on the last debt I got. I still had to pay it back, obviously, but I did. I'm debt-free from Centrelink. I haven't been part of Centrelink for over 4 years, going on 5 years. How the hell can I have earned a $6,000 debt when I haven't even been on bloody Centrelink to start with? The idiocy, once again, freaking astounds me. However, glitches in the new automated system have been causing all sorts of problems. The website is hard to use, and you may spend hours trying to speak to a human about your case. Don't despair. Here's how the saga is likely to unfold, and what you can do to fight a bogus claim that you have been you overpaid from Centrelink's perspective. 1. Centrelink will review the letter, warning of potential overpayment and asking you to clarify details supplied by the Australian Tax Office on the MyGov website. It will also send an SMS. You have 21 days to from the date of the letter to update online. Be careful. If you simply click yes, inverted commas, when asked whether whether your actual income was to figure supplied by the ATO, it may spread this over the whole year and assume, there we go, there's the speculation and accusation element, the fraud, you were employed for months when you were not, asking you to pay back your unemployment allowance. I was studying for full 4.5 years, full time. I wasn't working. Centrelink may ask you to provide supporting documentation, including bank statements, letters, and employee pay slips. You may have to contact employers from 6 years ago. And that ties into my date frame as well, right? Try to speak to staff member before the debt letter is issued. Technical support with an online account is available on 132307, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. See, they know they're in so much crap that the government is making their own people work on the weekend. All right. So you can also visit your local Centrelink office and expect queries. Centrelink may then send a debt notice stating that you owe hundreds and thousands of dollars in overpayments, plus a recovery fee of 10%, just to kick you in the ass. This may be the first you have heard from the agency, as they have been using an old address. Right, that's the modus operandum right there. That's the go-to line. That's the cop-out. So you can then call the repayments line 1-800-076-072, 1-800-138-193, or, because there's so many people calling through, 1-800-462-425. You may spend hours on hold. Again, you can visit the office, request a review by an authorised review officer. No, an independent authorised review officer. Ask for an independent, not an internal. Department of Human Services General Manager Hank Jogan is also encouraging people to email him direct if you cannot request a review. This is what I first went through to then call back to make sure it got done. You can also lodge an appeal with Social Security Appeals Tribunal. This person here has over $8,407.74 worth of debt. It's a very nice, interesting number, isn't it? Centrelink may suggest you start paying the debt even if it doesn't exist, since the review can take months and they don't appear to be able to cancel the automated process. You can get your repayments reduced to the minimum amount of $15 a month and then get reimbursed at a later date. Or you can refuse, because you know what? It's a democracy and we have rights. And Centrelink and the government don't want you knowing that, but you do. You have every right to say no. But if in 14 days pass and you haven't started paying, or you had the debt cancelled actually already, you may receive a letter from the from a private debt collection agency. Action on behalf of Centrelink, Dun & Bradstreet, Probe Group, Australia Receivables. Contact your local MP and Minister for Human Services, Alan Tudge. Once Centrelink is reviewing your case, you can also speak to Administrative Appeals Tribunal and the Commonwealth Ombudsman, which is investigating the crisis. It's not a crisis. It's an intellectual property use of fraud. They have designed the system to be to automatically create debts that don't exist. Guys, we're broke as shit. We have no money in the government bank. We owe more than trillions, what you actually hear compared to what we actually do owe the international bank. Mate, we are in so much strife. We are in freefall. Our economy has collapsed. You're just not seeing it yet because your face is in a bloody mobile phone. Get your face out of your screen, look up and look ahead and look at the reality of what's going on around you. Look at homelessness. Look at these robo-debts. Look at the bloody state of the economy. Look at the price of food, let alone petrol. I'll get to that shortly too. So, Opposition Human Services spokeswoman Linda Barney is also taking action, demanding the system be suspended while the issues are ironed out, and writing to the Australian National Audit Office requesting an inquiry. The Australian Lawyers Alliance said today that Centrelink is found to have breached its duty of care. Those who have received false debt letters may have grounds to sue. Guess what I'm doing next week? I'm going for every single cent. I'm going for pain and suffering. I'm going for mental abuse, fraud, false accusation of debt. I'm going for everything, guys. And I'll keep you updated in further episodes. And I'll show you my bank balance when the final payout does come. And show that this can work. We have rights, Australia. Let's exercise them. Let's not believe in what the media crap tells you, the newspapers in general tell you, all of that crap. Get to the point, get up on your feet, stop taking it, and stand up. Australia, fair go. Anyway, you can obtain legal advice from Victoria Legal Aid, as well as New South Wales Legal Aid and other organisations across the country. You may also want to share your story on notmydebt.com.au, notmydebt.com.au, which is collating accounts of people's experiences with Centrelink. That's just one article. Just one. Here's the doozy. This one's going to blow your mind. Aussies panicking over Centrelink demands to pay up to avoid debt collector. Demands from Centrelink repayments are leaving vulnerable Aussies stressed and anxious, with the agency even tweeting in the lifeline number because they are putting people under unrealistic stress and concern, and the way in which they speak to you on the phone makes you believe that you actually do have a debt. It's very, very psychopathic behaviour from a government department, folks. Australia, we have to stop this, and we have to stop it once and for all. The corrupt government needs to go, and that is it. We need to vote as a country for a vote of no competence, competence or competency in every single politician there is, from a local MP level right through to a federal level, especially Julia Bishop. She has to go. Demands from Centrelink payments are putting Aussies under intense pressure, with the government agencies even tweeting the Lifeline suicide help number. Like many Australians, Catherine Hare from Brisbane was sent a letter just last month telling her she owed thousands in overpaid unemployment benefits from the year 2011 to 2012. She claimed benefits after leaving her admin job for full-time study. Sound familiar to what I just said? But Centrelink's new automated system, introduced in October of 2016 to claw back money from claimants, has spread her wage across the whole year and calculated she needed to pay back $4,500 she claimed while not working. That's exactly the same thing for me. It is a carbon copy of what I'm going through right now, Australia, and you are probably too. You are being defrauded. Go see Legal Aid. It is a cover-up by the federal government. It is also defrauding the whole country. It is anti-democratic. It is more dictatorship, more dictatorial than anything else. It is fraud at a larcenist level of crime. It is false accusation of fraud, Australia. This is almost treason against the Australian people. We have to, as a country, once and for all, stand up, oust these bloody criminals once and for all. Australia, seriously, let's get this show on the road. Let's get a petition started. Let's vote for a vote of no confidence and criminal neglect by our government on all angles, including the education department. 21-year-old kids teaching out of a textbook today's kids. Yeah, that is a failure, and that is a crime in itself. You are underpreparing children for reality. Let's take a stand. She didn't have the debt. She should sue. And Christ, I'm so disjointed by the behaviour, by what's going on. They are putting up these suicide hotlines. Yeah? Colleen McCormick from Melbourne suffers from chronic pain and has had multiple surgeries that forced her out of a job in the healthcare industry for the most of 2013-14. The 36-year-old news.com told news.com.au that after receiving a Centrelink letter saying she owed more than $3,000, she cried all the way through Christmas. Yeah, good on you, Tony Abbott. Good on you, Malcolm Turnbull. Good on you, Bill Shorten. And fuck you, Julia Bishop. These people are not people. They're subhumans. They do not give a living or crying or normal human being even the slightest concern. You are a number to the tax department. You are a number on their debt sheet. You are not a human being. And keep that in mind. They do not see you as such. They might smile, they might be nice to your face, the smiling assassin type. The whole time, they're seeing dollar figures walking all around them all day bloody long. It is time it stops, Australia. Having mental health issues, suicide was my first thought, she said. She wrote back explaining her situation, but 2 weeks after the initial request, she received a letter from a private debt collecting agency demanding payments on behalf of Centrelink. She has now set up a GoFundMe page in a desperate attempt to get financial help for a debt she doesn't owe. Independent MP Andrew Wilkie yesterday said she had heard from more than 100 complaints, terrified people, 4 of whom said they were suicidal. That's a quarter of the people. It's 25 people or more want to kill themselves because of a debt that doesn't exist in reality. Centrelink is paying 3 private debt collection agencies our money to do this, to recover money from Australians. Many have expressed fear and frustration at receiving the letters, but are unable to explain their case to a human being with phone lines clogged, branches unable to help, and an online system incapable of comprehending nuance and complexities. Michael Griffiths from Brisbane told news.com.au on Tuesday that after he was on the dole for only 3 months in 2013, the automated system had gone back and averaged out his earnings for the year, assuming he was unemployed in those months. So he was employed in those months and therefore owed over $3,000. The 34-year-old filmmaker labelling extortion and calling it the biggest issue in Australia right now. I'm wondering if everyone going back to these letters has said it's preposterous. It is. Linda Stephen from rural New South Wales was also asked to pay back her welfare payments of $8,500 between 14 and 15. Hello? The system decided she was in work for months when she was not. She lives in the bush. How the fuck can she have a job? If you've ever been out bush, guys, and you've ever lived on a farm, I guarantee you, I have for 5.5 years. The only work you get is hay baling, fencing, lambing, and if you're lucky, I work on someone's horse stud. If you're super lucky. And you know what? Hay baling, fencing, and lambing, you do it on your own freaking property. It was soon discovered that they cannot be changed because a debt has already raised. She told news.com.au the issue has now gone through a full administrative review process. Even though staff can look at the pay slips and know I do not owe the money, nothing can be done. They know it's a lie. They have told her they don't owe the fucking money and they're still fucking making her pay it. At almost 64 years of age, a man and suffering from high blood pressure and a heart condition, I can assure you that the stress was overwhelming at first, not to mention the lengthy phone wait times and expenses. In the meantime, paying off a debt must still be made, but at the reduced payment that I must make at a minimum of $15 per fortnight for 3 months. 3 months is not the longest time you can reduce it for. And the staff member expressed the hope that the review would take place before then. So all the money in the government is hoping to claw back is in fact non-existent in a lot of cases, and it was actually costing Centrelink more in trying to sort out this mess. Yeah, because people like me are about to sue the living fucking shit out of them. The system was brought in 3 months ago. This is back in 2016, folks, with the government claiming it would recover $4 billion in overpaid benefits owed taxpayers by retirees, the unemployment, families, careers, blah, 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 blah. You can read what's on the screen right now. The government has sent out 169,000 review letters regarding potential Potential, speculation, fraud, defrauding, lying. Potential overpayment since July. This isn't 2016, guys. It's 2018 now. In 80% of instances, the debt is repayable to the Commonwealth, and in finally 20% instances, the matter is resolved, generally speaking, by people simply providing information online, he said. That's bullshit, by the way. Department of Human Services General Manager Hank Jogan, who has had released his email, at least one politician's doing the right thing, for people to complain to him directly, told the ABC last night the letters sent out the Centrelink were not debt letters, and said there has only been just over 200 complaints. That is bullshit. I'm really surprised that people are seriously suggesting that when we are obliged under the law to recover outstanding debt when it is identified, that we are being asked to stop doing this. Mr. Jogan said, I think you need to keep all of this in context. But Centrelink workers who told news.com.au they want to remain anonymous said the program was in chaos. There you go! There's the proof, guys. There are the facts. The whole thing is fraud at a severe federal level. Our politicians are the most corrupt politicians in the Southern Hemisphere. We are being run by criminals. We have to stop it. It is our country. It is our right as Australian citizens, born or naturalised, to stop it. I am beyond angry. I am beyond disgusted. I am beyond horrified that criminals are getting away with this bullcrap and they are employing people under the guise of public servants to support that. Every person involved in this has to go to jail for a life sentence because you are making people kill themselves. The Australian government, Centrelink, because of lies, intimidation, threats, and fear-mongering for money that they don't fucking owe. It is enough. Australia, please stand by me. Share this video. Please, for God's sake, do it for your kids. Moving right along, I'll get on to the next clip. Hang on a second. So, this brings me to petrol. Corruption much? Self-regulation? Government? 3 charts that suggest petrol prices are likely to push up again for Australian motorists. By Christmas, guys, most people are going to be paying $2 or more for petrol. And that's just standard, unleaded 91 or E10 petrol, folks. Not 95 and 98. My little experience recently, Central Coast petrol station, long story cut short, went in after getting to the petrol station, seeing $1.71.9 for unleaded 91 fuel. When I don't, I've got a Japanese car, so I'm going to put 95 in, otherwise it runs like a dog, blah, blah, blah. Went in, complained. A lady went off her brain too. Said, my mother had to pay $1.84.9 for 91 in Sydney today. That sparked me off, didn't it? Yes. Can I please have your head office number, darling? Thank you. In the time it took me to walk in, complain, get the number, and then walk out the glass doors of the petrol station, from that second, before I even got back to my car in the pump to get back in my vehicle and call up the head office number, 20 cents had been knocked off the price of all fuels. I then fueled up. I went back in and the lady said, isn't that coincidental? I give you the number, you walk out those glass doors, and as you are literally exiting the glass doors, the price dropped by 20 cents after I got a request sent through from head office. The petrol stations are listening to their own staff. They are recording their own staff. If you work for a petrol station, be aware that your head office is recording you. I called up the head office. They refuted that. That's fraud. It's a lie. It's a fact that it's impossible. It is impossible. There's no such thing as coincidence. Everything happens for a reason, and everything happens for its purpose. You cannot have the world's largest business self-regulating itself. You can't. You can't allow the government to self-regulate itself. Clearly, robo-debt. All this other crap that's going on. All these politicians going to jail. Royal commissions with the banks. For Christ's sakes, guys. The banks pissed the politicians off because they said, no, we're not going to lend you any more money. And then the politicians then turn around and set up a royal commission. That's what's happened. Not what you heard in the media. Not the 10% of the truth with the 90% of bullshit you hear on the news every day. And who gives a shit about sport on the news anyway? Honestly. Save sport for the bloody weekend. It is not headline stuff. I don't give a shit if royal people are getting married and Meghan Markle did something and whinged about this and someone got sick and went to hospital the day before the wedding. Fuck me, I don't care. Talk about the relevant news, the real corruption, the real issues. If you can't, don't put your news channel show on that day. Because all you are doing is programming, misleading and lying to people. The media does this for a job. This is what they are employed to do. Mislead, misguide, and tell you only snippets of the truth. So then you have to then go online and research the rest to find out the actual truth. You should just be able to sit down for that half an hour, 45 minutes of your day each day when you get home from work. For those of you who don't do shift work, watch the news, hear the truth, and then make a decision on what you're going to do the following day in relation to what's happening. Not some bullshit and some garbage that some politician wants covered up for the sake of having it covered up. Our country's stuffed. Our economy's in free fall, and our government is utterly criminally corrupt. And they are forcing robo-debt as they have been told by their own ministers to get rid of it immediately and scrap the project. Scrap it. Not fix it, scrap it. And then the finance minister and the treasurer have gone, no. We're broke as shit. We're not going to tell you that. We have to get this money, whether it's through honest or illegal terms or means, because otherwise we can't finish the roadworks. And guys, just a quick one, petrol-wise. Petrol prices go up. Insurance premiums go up. Rego's gone up. And the roadworks are halfway through getting done and no one's working on the roads because we've run out of money. The state and federal governments have run out of money in their own rights in relation to the public roads works that are going on now in New South Wales. I can't speak for Victoria because I don't live in Victoria or Queensland or Western Australia, South Australia or the Northern Territory. But for New South Wales, if you've noticed, a lot of 80 zones around and no road work getting done. You've got to ask some questions, folks. 110 zone down to 80, up to 110 down to 80. Uses more fuel, doesn't it? Right? Think about it. The longer you spend driving, the more fuel you use. That's simple analytics and metrics of common sense. Most of the roadworks aren't even roadworks, folks. They're a ploy to make you spend more money on fuel. So scrolling back through. Australian petrol prices are likely to increase even further in the weeks ahead. These three charts explain why. The first shows that that front month, okay, Brent crude futures jumped over $80 last week for the first time. That's been since November 2014. Crude price was like $1.21 like a week ago, guys. $80 now. And that flowed through to the Singapore gasoline prices, where Australia sources most of its petroleum from. According to ComSec, the Singapore gasoline price surged by 5.2% up to $91.70 a barrel last week. The increase in Australian dollar terms was even larger at 5.4%. 3.5-year high for crude oil. And with Singapore gasoline prices surging higher, that's now filtering through to wholesale prices in Australia. The national average wholesale price for unleaded petrol in Australia rose by 2.5% to $1.35.2 per litre last week. this must be an older statement and older article, but it is very relevant to what's going on right this minute anyway. This only came across my desk a couple of days ago. While the average pump price for unleaded petrol across Australia fell last week, Ryan Felsman, a senior economist at CommSec, doesn't expect that trend to last. Australian drivers continue to approach petroleum stations with trepidation. He says pump prices are above $1.40 across large swathes of the country and are likely to stay there. Felsman said that the surge in Singapore gasoline price also points to higher pump prices arriving in the coming weeks. Guys, petrol's about to hit $2 a litre. The capital gains in CPI, Capital Points Index, has not improved wages, has not improved the tax cuts for Australians, has only benefited large business to a sickening level. We are in a state of absolute, utter economic collapse right now. 27th of May 2018. December this year, we're not going to have an economy if we don't stand up now and fight. If we have to become a republic, we have to become a republic. If we can get rid of our current government and keep democracy in place, excellent. But guys, the laws have to be rewritten once and for all. All current serving and past politicians have their wages, their income, their benefits, everything stripped from them, and that put back into the public coffers. Every cent that politicians have earned in the last 3 years, and any post-prime ministers, to refund the country for the amount of money they have stolen from us through misservice, incompetence, and criminal acts of fraud, to defraud the Australian people, to also take away any form of stability between us and China. This is a country of Australians who want fair go. The way we get fair go is we stand up and be counted. Whether you're naturalised or you are born here or you are a native person. You have rights, guys. We all have rights, and they are being stepped all over into the mud. We have every right now to step up and stop it as a country. Let's show the rest of the world how to do things properly, how to fix this. We are a country of innovation. We are a country of invention. We are a country of multiculturalism on a massive scale. Let's once again innovate and prove to the world how forward-thinking, how passionate, and how protective we are of our own country as a nation of people. Not races of people, but a nation of people. Let's stick together, let's band together, let's fight for what is right. Let us get justice. Let's get back the big countries back on side to buy our iron ore again, to help us with our economy. Because at the end of the day, guys, we cannot self-sustain. It is just not the way the government has geared our economy. We become a republic, and that opens up all of the doors of hope and opportunity to us with every country in the world without bias. Secondly, speed cameras get removed once and for all. They cause more accidents than they do anything. We need to make the bastards pay. And pay is what needs to be done. Australia, I hope you enjoyed and have learnt from this experience with me today. I hope you understand and appreciate how important it is to stand up and be counted. I hope you share this video for God's sake with everybody you can. Because if you're a Christian, you're an atheist, you're agnostic, you're a Satanist, I don't care. I don't care about your personal perspective on things. But I do care that you need to care as much as I do about our country going into the mire. I've got kids. The kids without a future at the moment. Help me help today's kids become tomorrow's leaders. Make sure that we can raise our kids with food in their mouth, clothes on their back, and a bloody proper education. I'm doing my bit as a teacher. You do yours. Get your face out of your screen and start looking forward and looking up. Watch what's going on around you and help people. Fight for what's right. If you're being defrauded by Centrelink or any government agency or debt collection agency as we speak, go to a lawyer. Go to legal aid. Compensation is there. It is waiting for you. But you have to make the call. You have to speak to someone and you have to take corrective action for Australia. Peace out. I will say something about this as a refresh in our next video. But Australia, let's take corrective action for the benefit of all today's kids and tomorrow's kids. Because without them, we have nothing. Thank you.